podcast. It's your host, Larry Atencia. With me today is Jeremy Campbell. Jeremy, care to give us a brief introduction?
Yeah. So thank you for having me on your podcast, Larry. I appreciate to be here. My name is Jeremy Campbell. I am a grade school teacher in the city of Philadelphia. I've been living here for the past 6 years, growing up in New Jersey. When I'm not in the city, I enjoy television, video games, and road trips and exploring the world. Thank you.
Thank, yeah, thank you for that. So you already mentioned you were a grade school teacher. We happen to be colleagues. We've been working together for the last 2 years.
Yep.
Yes. So care to tell us a little bit more about your position and your job as a teacher?
Yeah, so I'm currently in the second year of my career as a grade school teacher. I'm actually certified to be a fourth through eighth grade teacher in the state of Pennsylvania, but I actually got a gig. Graduating college in 2021, I got a gig at our school that we both work at. I was originally supposed to be a campus minister because I think they liked my background in campus ministry when I was in college. Long story short, that did not go anywhere. And I ended up being a long-term sub for sixth grade. Um, Sixth grade is wild, but my principal at the time thought I did a good job, and she wanted me to stick around. Thought I had some talent for it, and me myself, I really enjoyed teaching, so I ended up staying the whole year. And then they had an opening in fourth grade, and kind of with my certification area, I wanted to get as much experience between fourth through eighth grade as possible. And I was able to, at least the school that we work at, get experience in fourth, fifth, and sixth. And I've
Yeah.
also had experience in seventh grade student teaching when I was still in college. So been around the block in terms of teaching grades, but right now I am really happy teaching fourth grade.
Yeah, you are a natural. I would say that I've noticed just from, observing from the outside looking in that you have a very good rapport and just a good sense of management, which is usually the most difficult part of any teacher when they first begin their career. So it's been a pleasure seeing you from afar, being able to have a good handle on management, teaching, building good relationships with the kids. So because I've seen people in schools. I've been a teacher or in different roles in California, Pennsylvania for I think this is my 14th year teaching. So I have seen other people who have struggled and don't have the aptitude for teaching, and you're definitely one of the ones that do. So hopefully it's something that you enjoy and that you foresee as being a long-term career. Um,
Too.
yeah. Um, so the second question I wanted to ask you was, what are your views on starting your own family? Is that something that you are looking forward to? Is that something that you now have?
Well, I am currently not in starting a family. I'm still young in my career, mid 20s. Really trying to, I'm working on finishing my master's degree, kind of getting to a place of financial stability. Um, but starting a family has been something I've been thinking about. Something I've always wanted to do, just growing up, watching my parents and seeing other families. I think it would just be an honor to, get married and have kids and, raise those kids and bring them into the world. But on my drives to and from work, I drive across Philadelphia, and there's plenty of times where I'm stuck on the interstate, and whether it be 95, 676, 76, I don't know. But the thought that comes across me with that question, I'm really glad you asked that, is that, like,
Okay.
what point do I want to make the transition from where I am now to having a family? Because I'm at the point in my life where, I'm finishing my master's degree, I'm getting work experience and some money. And one thing I want to do before I make that jump and have a family, because once you have a family, I'll get to that a little bit, but one thing I want to do is explore the world. And I've been trying to do that in many ways as I could with my current, work and financial situation. I mean, last year I left the country for the first time. I went to Niagara Falls and I went to Canada. And for some people, it's like, oh, it's just Canada. But like for me, it was like, wow, it took me 23 years to get to this point. I planned this long weekend trip all by myself, and I really want to do this as much as I can. And I'm thinking about maybe checking out, if things work out logistically, going to Arizona this May and checking out the Grand Canyon. Um,
Mhm.
Sometimes I'll think about, can I make my way over to Europe one day, maybe to Hawaii,
Yes.
heck, even like Japan, maybe. But kind of like what I was saying to you before, time's moving forward. You only have so much of it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I want to see as much as I can, um, as long as I can. And I think getting married won't get in the way of that because, hey, I'll have someone to travel with. So that'll only be power to me. But I think when I start having kids, and that's another, person I have to take care of, or persons I have to take care of, that's only going to change because then, I'll have financial responsibilities in other places. How can you really well, depends on the kid, but putting them on a plane and taking them to somewhere very far might be difficult.
Yeah.
So, like,
We
I'm trying to think about, oh,
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. We still haven't put Maryland inside of a plan for those reasons you mentioned. But continue, sorry.
yeah. But it's like it's an inner conflict I'm having. Like, I want to see as much of the world as I can before I have another lifelong responsibility to take of. But also at the same time, it's like I don't want to wait too long to have kids because I hope to get married to a woman one day, and a woman can only produce children on a biological timeline. So like I want to make sure that I don't time something too early or too late, and I
Mm,
tell myself like I don't obviously have the answer. I'll find it eventually, but I won't
yeah,
have it right now. But I definitely don't want like it's gonna work out the way it is, whether
yeah.
it's too early, too late, or just about right. But that's something I am kind of thinking about. How much of this world can I see before I have to dedicate my life to raising children?
Yeah.
But at the same time, how can I, time it right so like I'm not raising kids. I still don't have kids in school when I'm like in my 60s. But again, those things will work out.
Yeah.
But I'm
Um,
a big thinker.
yeah, no, and I love the fact that you're giving it plenty of thought, and it seems like you're being discerning, and you're trying to find a good balance between um your own individual fulfillment and development, while also keeping in mind that you don't want to wait too long to sort of, begin trying to think of, subsuming yourself into a larger unit, such as the family. So I think you're way ahead of the game, and probably way better prepared than the majority of young men out there. How old are you,
I,
Jeremy?
I'm 24.
24. Okay, yeah. So yeah, way ahead of the game. So yeah, that's good to hear. And speaking of families, so instead of being future oriented and thinking about, your own moving forward, what was your relationship like with your parents? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very happy to say that I do have a positive relationship with my parents, and I've especially come to appreciate them as I've gotten older and started living and working on my own. But
Mm,
um, I have two older brothers, and my parents had them when they were in their early 30s, and then time went on, they had me when they were in their early 40s. So like I definitely feel like the baby of the family. The way where my siblings are 7 and 9 years older than me, and then there's just me. And it never really like I never really understood or like even thought about that dynamic till I got to college where I was like, well, my parents are, a lot older than parents of my friends that are my age, and like um my siblings are a lot older than me. But I think what's nice about that dynamic is that growing up, I always had wisdom to be
mm,
passed down to me because, when I remember being like in kindergarten, doing elementary school things. My brothers were in high school, and they were at obviously high school, elementary school are very different places. But
yes.
but it was really nice, like getting to certain points, like in middle school and high school, and having struggles with other people, or just with academics. I always had parents telling me work hard, and because academics matter to an extent, and we think that you have the talent to do well in your academics, so that's why you need to commit yourself and create a routine. And that feedback that has helped carry me throughout high school, college, and grad school. And then for my brothers, they would tell me like, don't get so crazy about high school relationships because everyone moves on and grows up and gets mature. So when I was feeling certain things in high school, we're exiting college and kind of getting in the working world and being like, hey man, don't sweat the small stuff. And it was just really nice hearing that, because I don't
Yeah.
think a lot of people my age heard that wisdom. Because I'd always be like, hey, why are we getting so worked up over something stupid? And then everyone else would be like all caught up in it. And then I thought I was the weird one for being
Right. They're looking at you like, who is this guy?
exactly. I always felt like the weird one, but turns out it's ahead of the game, I guess.
Yes. It seems like, yeah, that you being the son of older parents perhaps gave you a gave you the sort of personality that was a little bit more mature than other peers and people your age. That's what I'm hearing. Do you have a particular dynamic with your father uh, and your mother that are different, and in what ways?
That's a good question. So I think starting with my dad has been my dad and I were both very involved with the Boy Scouts, and I'm still involved. We're both still involved today as adults. And I think my dad was the one that would help me a lot with kind of like skills outside of the house, in a sense. Like with outdoors, we did a 50-mile backpacking trip in New Mexico together.
Nice.
We did summer camps growing up. We went to, and I currently work at the summer camp where Friday the 1918 Friday the 13th was filmed, Camp Crystal Lake. So we were both very outdoors, and we spent a lot of miles and a lot of trails together. And when we're not in the outdoors, he's taught me how to do work on my car. And I'm but nowhere near an expert mechanic, but just like the little things to take care of
Hmm.
cars, because the car I currently drive is like 19 years old, and I definitely have an appreciation for how to like check up on it and keep it running, thanks to the knowledge he's passed on to me. And I think like just he's given me I like both my parents have, but I think my dad has given me a lot of like ability, like a high work ethic. Like growing up, we never had people to come over and cut our lawn or rake our leaves or shovel our snow, or my favorite, putting in the mulch in the garden. So like we were always like doing it ourselves. And I remember when my dad was young and like we were all children, he would do it himself. And now that
Yeah.
he's in his mid 60s, I feel obligated to like help him out. So like I would definitely say that's my the relationship with my dad. He taught me, just to, survival skills in the adult world, and also just, hard work ethic. And um, my mother too, transitioning to her, she's definitely taught
Mhm.
me how to be a hard worker, but definitely from the inside, and like in terms of like schoolwork.
Okay.
People say I'm a workaholic, because on weekdays I work. Like on weekdays I don't relax when I get home from work. I mean, I teach fourth grade. I help in our school's musical, and then
Yeah.
this semester I'm taking two grad classes. So like, luckily I'm not staying up till 2 a.m. or
Yeah.
I need to reevaluate some things. But I'm definitely working from the merry moment I go to bed. Maybe
Yeah.
if I'm lucky I have 10 minutes to spare, but
And this is, well, thank you for doing the podcast then.
of course.
But yeah, and if your early 20s are a great time to put in all the hard work necessary to be able to develop and to build up career capital, and just um, yeah, because you have the energy, you have the vivacity of youth, and now is the perfect time. So I support hard work um, within the confines of what's still healthy, right? You don't want to go to the point where you're exhausted and affecting your mood and your mental health. But I think most people have the capacity to probably do a lot more when they're young, and I think in America we do tend to have an emphasis on productivity,
Mhm.
and there are criticisms to that, but I also think that it's important to do those things. um what was your experience like in the educational system growing up?
Yeah, so I'm a product of the New Jersey public school system. I've been to public school from pre-K through 12. I didn't experience Catholic education until I went to St. Joseph's University, a Jesuit institution in Philadelphia, and then working, I guess, for the Archdiocese for my first job out of college. And kind of tying into what I was into saying about my mom, my mom taught me a lot of good study skills and work ethic skills on the inside and dedication, and I think that also translated well into New Jersey public school. I've been out of it for 6 years. It's been like 6 years since I guess I graduated high
Yeah.
school. But what I remember is that like my school district in New Jersey really worked us hard. I didn't realize it in the moment, but there'd be nights where we'd have homework over the weekends. Our homework was to study over the weekends. We took all different sorts of subjects. We had a big checklist of classes to meet off to graduate high school, and I think that really prepared me well for college. And I think
Hmm.
going to college, I remember just to get, like I said about grad school, working up late, getting all my work done so I can do stuff like this over the weekends, having boundaries. And then people would be like, yo, why are you so like insane about this? And I'm like, your high school's to make you do this? And friends growing up in suburban PA, and they're like, no. And even working in grade school, like I see the kids, someone I work with, I'm like, you guys don't have an app on your phone to check your grades? And I was like, oh, and I'm like, okay, now I sound like the weirdo. And like, so I think it's all New Jersey, but like New Jersey really whipped me into shape, and I really had to
Yeah.
take it back as a teacher in Pennsylvania. So,
Yeah, I
but,
think New Jersey has a good reputation for great public schools, and that's why people are willing to pay the high taxes and move over the bridge to Jersey suburbs, because they know those taxes are going into good public schools. So yeah, so I think a lot of people from Philly move to Jersey um, suburbs and towns to get that public education.
mhm, absolutely, yeah, the Jersey public like you just said, taxes go into it. One of the best, and but they work you hard. I'm a product.
Yeah. But we're seeing the results as well, though, right? You're well adjusted, you have a job, you came into Blessed Trinity, and I was impressed by your ability to just be a good teacher, do what you have to do. So the results are in the pudding, as they say. um so transitioning a bit, what are your political views?
Man, how do I answer that question? 2023. Uh, I
I,
felt,
I want to say, I want you to answer it honestly, truthfully, and with candor.
sure, that's my mantra. Uh,
Okay.
so I guess as of 2023, I mean, I don't know how quickly people hop sides, but I guess now I would call myself um, a moderate Democrat in a sense, because it's not saying that it's weird. I agree with stuff on both sides of the spectrum, both Democrat and Republican, but I can't say I agree with everything on both sides of the party. I'm not like a full Democrat. I'm not a full Republican. I think the best thing I can say is a moderate Democrat. I try to be moderate about things and be fair while also um,
Yeah.
just not
And
trying to cause issues with people, because that's what it seems.
right, that's true. Exactly. Yeah. You're probably saying which of these positions is less divisive and probably most encompassing of most people's views and way of living. Now, I wanted to just for the listeners, how would you define um, being a moderate Democrat, if you could, or if you want to? Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to say something, get contradict myself, but I'm going to give my best shot. So
Yes.
I guess just what being a moderate Democrat, kind of like what this is what I think what moderate Democrats think, like wanting for the best for everyone, but also to like allowing people to like be able to the freedom to make their own choices. I know that sounds Republican, but there's also Democrat. I guess
Yeah.
I'm gonna tumble over my words here, but I guess even if moderate Democrats do say this, my political philosophy is just what can we do for the best of all Americans?
Yeah.
I just feel like that's just so hard to even talk about these days because you think one thing, but then there's a whole moral argument against it. And then, you talk about the economy and you want everyone to not suffer financially, but then at the same time, people got to get the money somewhere. So like it's so difficult to talk about.
It is, yeah, and I think there was something important in what you said, which is that everyone's political views partakes in what other ideologies and philosophical standpoints emphasize, right? So we could say that, Republicans emphasize personal responsibility and like rugged individualism, and Democrats tend to emphasize care and taking care of those who, are less privileged or have less than others, and building a welfare state or a robust safety net. But you know I'm sure they're thinking those things in order to allow for individuals to flourish, right? And Republicans with their individualism think that the strongest individuals could then make decisions to build a tight knit strong society, right? So it's not a matter of each political view having a monopoly on ideas. It's obvious that there's, interpolation, that there's borrowings, there's overlaps, etc. And, putting labels on things just sort of um, flattens it into talking points and slogans that don't encompass, the truth of everything, right? So even if you're a Democrat or Republican, there's still wiggle room and a lot of space for disagreements. It's just ultimately people feel that they need to make a choice in order to be responsible citizens, and they feel they need to make a choice between both parties. Um, so yeah, so I like what you said. Um, what are you religious? What are your views on religion?
Yeah, so I grew up in a Roman Catholic household. Um, my family was religious in the sense of going to church every week, and just we would say prayers before holiday meals. We'd say a prayer before going on road, like a long car drive or something to keep us safe. But I guess I experienced a very like casual sense of Catholicism because going into an archdiocese elementary school, like I was almost kind of culture shocked with how like some people, especially my age, are religious, and I always thought that was like just something that was something from our parents' generation, like
Hmm.
people grew up in the '60s or like that. But just seeing that people were more traditionally Catholic, it was almost like really interesting, and
Yeah.
definitely say it challenged me to reevaluate my faith. And I'm not saying I'm still I consider myself Catholic, I guess, but at the same time, I always try to just be careful because then nowadays there's such a connotation like, oh, you're a Catholic and you're a Republican, you must believe this, and I don't
Yeah.
like it. And it's like kind of like I said before. And after hearing you talk, maybe I'm more of an independent, I guess, because
Mhm.
like it's really hard to commit to one side these days because like can I even talk about me being religious or about faith without someone assuming, oh, I'm a bigot from one political party, and
Yeah.
then you get associated with certain people, and it's like it's just so divisive these days.
Yeah. Exactly. Um, so I remember you saying that you had done campus ministry
Yeah,
while at St. Joe's. Is that something that was a extension of your Catholicism, or was just something that you sort of got into just to participate um, in college life?
I think it was more so just as a way for me to participate in something. I mean, the campus ministry building at St. Joe's was right near my freshman dorm, and they
Okay.
did a lot of retreats where you'd go to like rugged PA and go to a retreat house. At least our freshman year before they changed retreat houses, there was service opportunities in Philadelphia. But then we also did a week-long service trip to Southern Appalachia, like in Kentucky, Virginia, Tennessee. And I'll be honest, I don't think I did those because of the religious connotation.
Yeah.
I think it was just a lot of fun to like do service, help other people, explore a new part of the country. But it also did have teachings, to Jesuit values. And again, people hear about the Jesuits and think, oh, that's fake Catholicism. You're not a real Catholic. And that's not the point. But I think I just got involved with that because it was something to do, something I enjoyed. And I met some of my roommates and some of my best friends in college were involved with campus ministry too. So I guess it's just something I more so enjoyed rather than for the religious reasons.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, talking about religion and just the connotations between Catholicism and just religiosity and conservatism and being a Republican, I think again, going deep into history and just getting educated on different strands of Catholicism and Protestantism and Islam and all religions, one is able to discover, like you were saying, the independent thinkers who don't conform or fit into certain stereotypes that people have. So, just for instance, I think, Ivan Tillich was a religious man. I'm not sure if he was Catholic. I think he was, who also has anarchist political views. Tolstoy himself also had anarchist ideals and was very religious. Dorothy Day, I think, last year, who I who I did a presentation as a saint at school, was also an anarchist who was just made into a saint. So, I think just being educated and thinking through these things will allow people to see that it's never as simple or easy as people make it, and it's a lot more complex and nuanced. Are you doing anything toward self-improvement, working on yourself and your development?
I'm definitely thinking about something I want to do. It's just a matter of finding the time to do it. Like I said before, my master's degree takes a lot of my time. And also, just like the area I live in, not a bad area by any means, but just having time to go to the gym. So my point is, I want to get in better physical shape. I just think the stress of having to maintain my grades to keep my graduate scholarship has been getting to me a lot, and I think I stress eat. It's just a problem. I mean, the Pepperidge Farm cinnamon bread or the candy my students give me. I mean, I'm so grateful. The Dunkin' Donuts down the road, like,
yeah.
In a sense, I'm almost relieved to get my master's degree done so I can focus on something like getting into better shape because I'm young and my body, you only have one body, and I really want to take care of it and get in the best condition possible. But it's just all my free time. I want to, I have to do my master's degree. Yeah. And then money, I got to kind of budget for the next couple months at least.
Yeah.
But I try to exercise, walking around the city is something I try to do when I can on the weekends if I'm in the area. But then there's also don't want to walk off in the wrong direction by accident.
Yeah.
Just cold it is outside. I mean, that's something a more doable thing. It's not like, oh, I can't walk because there's sidewalks are crumbly, but it's just sometimes I'm not in the area or I got some studying to do, or that's something I would like to work on maybe starting this summer when I have one less thing to worry about.
I'm sure sometimes it feels inconvenient. I've been thinking myself of starting to run, or at least do a lot more walking than I do. I'm very big on calisthenics and body weight exercises, and I'm very good on doing that. But I feel like I've neglected the more cardiovascular element of exercise, which is really good for your health. So I was thinking of starting it, and then like you said, it's like it's pretty cold outside. Do I really want to just, run around the high school that's down the block from me while it's cold? And, it's also another thing that you need to add um, in terms of time, which, you know, for us members of American society is, I feel like we feel a time crunch in between, for you masters, teaching, um, extracurricular activities, etc. And for me, family, exercise, reading, the podcast, etc. It's just harder sometimes to find those times to be able to do those things. But I would definitely recommend and support you in trying to incorporate exercise into your daily routine and just what you do, because I do think as a young man you want to start now so that later it's just part of what you do and you're just much healthier in the future, and less medical bills, less medical issues, because you're just in a much healthier baseline. um Next question, which is one of my favorites, is any big regrets in your life so far?
Um, I definitely think one of my big life regrets is not getting more involved in my school in middle and high school.
Okay.
Um, I have, I do have ADD. It's a lot more manageable now as an adult, and I think a lot more people have been diagnosed with it. But as a kid, I think it was still one of those things being researched and like treatment and studying of like what degrees do people have it. And I was on medication to help me focus for it. And I think that made me a robot in school, getting all my work done, getting good grade or good reasonable grades. But I think it would make me so tired after school.
Mm.
It's one of the unappealing things was going to sports practice from 3 to 6 or doing like the play for that long. And I kind of just wanted to relax after school, kind of like what I do when I want to get home from work. But I saw a lot of people. I played football for a year, but I wanted to start working sophomore year when I was, I guess, 16 or something.
Mhm.
So I stopped. Well, I did sports throughout high school, but definitely not a highlight at all. Just something my parents thought I should do. But I definitely like wish I applied myself more, because like I had so much fun in college because it was the things I did, the extracurriculars in a sense that defined it. But looking back at middle and high school, I'm like, yeah, I played Xbox with my friends. I was a lifeguard and made money. I did worked at a Boy Scout camp in the summer. But like a lot of the stuff that people remember high school for, like sports and plays and all that, like yeah, I really didn't do any of that because I was just so exhausted from going back to it, the ADHD. Because I'd be in school from 7 a.m. or whatever time we went to school to 3 in the afternoon, and I just a lot of kids would do more than me and stay till 6, 7 o'clock doing those extracurriculars, and that's really what made high school so worth it for them. But for me, it was just like I can't do it. I'm too
Yeah.
tired. So if I were to go back, I would push myself a bit more, knowing what I know now. But I had college to make up from it, so it's not something that weighs down on me too much. It's just like whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's interesting. I think one of the like easier policy changes and just things that we can change about schools and the school system is just making the start times later.
Hmm.
Like instead of being 7 o'clock, we could start at 9, and I think that would bump up test scores and performance and just um, the happiness index of students and teachers as well, because I think that a lot of the it's just not optimal for children and human beings to wake up that early. And I think just bumping up the start times for schools for like 2 hours would make it a so much better environment.
I've definitely thought about that too. But I also think like I used to think that way, and then I started hearing what other people were saying about not pushing it back. I'm not saying I disagree with you. I
Yeah.
think there's some good points in pushing the start time, but then as I think about just waking up early kind of teaches discipline. I mean, I get up for work at 5:30, and no one told me to do that. That's just so I
Yeah.
get to school on time. I hate rolling into things late. Um,
5:30 is very early, Jeremy. You know,
that's
especially as like, let's say were you doing this as a teenager?
I woke up at school at like 6 when I was a teenager.
Okay, yeah. I mean, just think about the sort of rest that is required of teenage bodies because of the changes that are occurring. I mean, I think that it teaches discipline, yes, but it also probably has effects on your health, mental and physical, that are detrimental. So yeah, but I do agree that there's a balance to be had, especially with the role of education being conditioning and socialization, and teaching of certain values such as discipline. But we also need to sort of take into consideration children's happiness, mood, and physical development.
Yeah, just one last thing too. Like again, I agree with you there, but I've also seen arguments of people saying like, "What about parents who need to go to work and be at work at like 7, 8, or 9? What about
Mhm.
curriculars? You can't be kids
Yep.
having baseball practice while the sun's down." I don't think that passionately about it, but I remember seeing
Yeah.
people say that, and I'm like, "Oh, that's true." But again, it's like I see both sides rationally,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I think for the reasons you just stated, it's probably something that's not going to happen. But I mean, I think it also shows what schools and education is about, right? So socialization, and also it's a form of babysitting, so parents could go to work,
yep.
right? And yeah, so this was a good conversation. I enjoyed it. And the last what's lacking question is, what's your favorite book of all time, album, and movie?
Mm, let's see. I'll start with the book. My favorite book, or I'm gonna cheat and say book series. I love Harry Potter books. Oh my god,
Yes.
those are like those are, I know those are meant for children and they're published by Scholastic, but like wow, those are like some of the best books I've read. I read them. I read the first couple when I was like fourth or fifth grade. Never finished them because I couldn't apply myself, and I read them over lockdown.
Oh
Back
wow.
COVID and this vaccine wasn't available yet. But I read them all, and I was like, "These are so much better than the movies." Like, I want to say that I was just seeing the movies. I'm like, "You better read those books; those are incredible." So,
That's usually how it goes. I think the only case where that's not the case, where the books are better than the movies, is the Godfather movies being better than the Mario Puzo
mhm.
Godfather books. But other than that, I think it's like all the movies are better than the books. But sorry, continue.
No, no, yeah, that's just what came to mind. I have the whole collection at home. I bought them like my brother has the hard. One of my brothers has the hardcover books, but over quarantine, I just bought the soft cover on Amazon and started stacking my bedroom. But those are the books.
Yeah.
Um, Movies. Again, I'm gonna say the original Star Wars trilogy, particularly Return of the Jedi. I think one of the things that played into my teaching style as a teacher is Luke Skywalker's belief that his father, that they're still good at him. Uh,
Hmm.
some people say my patience is almost endless. It's most certainly not, but it looks like it is.
Yeah.
Um, and I think what helps me deal with difficult situations and even like difficult students sometimes is that the Luke Skywalker in me thinking like, oh, there's good in them. They're acting obnoxious or whatever, but they're still good in them. They're a child. You got to understand the complexities to that. And I think that really resonated with me when I saw the original trilogy for the first time in kindergarten on VHS. I was like, these lasers
Mi-
so cool. Blast.
Mr. Mr. Campbell is going to become Mr. Atencia's conscience at school, where it's like, patience, Mr. Atencia, there's good in them. Yeah, but obviously that's what makes you a great teacher, right? That just patience, management, and patience when you're beginning teaching. Everything else comes with that. So it's great to hear that you're patient and that people have recognized it, and you like,
The
yes,
things
thanks.
students have said to me where I'm like, wow, that was really rude. But then I'm just like, you know what? They are 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. They barely know what they want to be one day or what they like. So just give them a little grace and
Yeah.
they'll appreciate it. So that's where that comes from. Um, And then album. You see, that's an interesting question because I don't really listen. My brothers were the ones that had the boxes and the CDs, and they lived in an era where you had to listen to whole CDs or albums to appreciate songs. But I really didn't get into music until Apple Music was already a thing, and like I got Spotify in college. So even though I should, I'm not the person who like appreciates albums, but more so songs from
Yeah.
albums. Because I'm trying to think of one, I would probably have to dig through
That's
Spotify to answer it for you.
that's very millennial of you.
I
Now,
know.
quick question. So, high school years were not it weren't big in terms of music for you. Like I had this sense of like teenage years being tremendously into music and artists and your identity just being formed around what type of music you listen to, what type of artists you like, etc. Right? Like so that wasn't part of your experience growing up as a teenager, like because that would blow my mind.
I never was the kid in high school who would just have their headphones in being like, man, I'm listening to music, leave me alone, dude. I mean, I of course I would know music and I would hear it, but like growing up, my parents were like, don't bring electronics to school. So I was never the kid to bring electronics. I mean, I brought my phone
Right.
just starting like in eighth grade, just in case it was an emergency, but I was always worried about losing headphones, losing my DS or something.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
careful. It wasn't
Interesting.
like college where I would have more independence to do what I wanted, and I would be sitting at my desk or in the library, and I needed music to study. But I think now that I'm talking about it, I think the first like I wish I could give you an answer, but I think the first time I started appreciating albums was Billy Joel.
Okay.
Because I remember sitting there trying to focus. I remember listening to Piano Man a lot. And then I was like, wow, you can really like find everyone's music right here. I know at that point it was like 2017, 2018. I felt like
Yeah.
living in like 1999, but I was like, I remember really appreciating his music first. And then it kind of got the times with The Weeknd and Post Malone,
Yeah.
who, so like I had a really weird timeline with it, but I think I
Yeah.
really started with Billy Joel like late high school, early college. He's the only concert I've ever been to.
Oh, yeah. So it has to be a Billy Joel.
I
Yeah.
remember when he and Big Bird taught me ABCs on Sesame Street VHS. So I've known Billy Joel for a long time.
Maybe, yeah, exactly. It's like a continuation of like beautiful memories of your childhood into,
Yeah.
now adulthood. All right. So I think that was a great conversation. Thank you for joining us for the What's Lacking podcast. And I will see you on Monday.
Yeah. Well, Tuesday technically.
Oh, Tuesday, yes, President's Day. Even better. You just made my day even more than what this podcast did. All right. Take care, Jeremy.
All right. See ya.
All right, bye.
Bye.